everyone, the Wagon Wheel of Wisdom here. Please like, share, and subscribe, and hit the bell notifications down below if you haven't already.
Hey folks, Kevin here, and welcome back to the Wagon Wheel of Wisdom. Over this shoulder is the wagon wheel, as usual. Hopefully some wisdom up here. A little salty today. Yesterday at the gym, I hurt my back doing some squats, lower back muscle strain, nothing spinal, so that's a good thing, but movement is a little hard to come by at this point, and sleeping is obviously a little tougher, so a little tired today. And I sat on my other pair of glasses. So these are my readers up close. The other ones are for distance, so we're going back to the old school way of looking at things through my eyeballs, but trying to remain positive and hoping there's a silver lining on those two negative experiences. But negativity is always a perception. However, today, as I had said, I'm a little salty, so I guess I'm just going to talk about something, and it would be the consistent saltiness through this whole process, better known as the dark night of the soul. What is it? And a lot of people, and myself included, as I've thought about it, have really wondered, is there a difference between depression and the dark night of the soul? I'm just going to give you my little synopsis on it. Truthfully, I think there's a lot of parallels, but I think there's some subtle differences too along those lines. So I suppose similarities would be confusing state of mind, not really sure which way to turn. I would equate it, and for those of you that have been down the road of post-traumatic stress disorder, I myself have been down that road for quite a few years after my father's suicide. Sadly, I was the one that found him, so that really sent me on a trajectory down that path. I would highlight that is much more similar to the dark night comparison than it is a depression comparison. So depression, I always use this analogy: depression, deep rest. Depression, deep rest, meaning the mind and the body has gone through a traumatic event and it needs to kind of recalibrate itself. Now, some may argue, well, isn't that what this is about too? To varying degrees, it is. But I'm gonna mention a unique catalyst here that makes it vastly different in my experience than, say, in the past. So dealing with depression in the past, other than going to a therapist, taking medication, it doesn't seem like there was much of an arsenal out there to really dig deep into these symptoms causing the depression in lieu of giving you things or providing you things that kind of mask over the symptoms, sort of like a topical cream that you would put on maybe eczema. You're not getting down to the root of what's actually causing the eczema. And in years past, that is something in a vast difference between what's going on then with depression and what's going on now, moving through this dark night process. Into this dark night of the soul and being vaulted down this path, this isn't really a topical journey by any stretch of the imagination, and you really cannot approach it with the old mindset. Again, I brought up the analogy of bringing a brain to a soul fight on this one, and I really am embracing that aspect, because this isn't just I'm hurting, I'm sad. It really isn't even close to that. That's 1% of so much more going on behind the scenes. This is forcing me to confront everything. I'd love to say it comes at one at a time, but it's not like this. This is everything all at one time coming at me. It comes in different forms, I suppose, that highlight different areas that need healing based on that. But I tell you what, like it is really holding up a spotlight, and better yet, I suppose the mirror analogy to the root causes of, I suppose, my modern day dysfunction. And I don't really want to label anybody as dysfunctional, or myself included, but we're not going to be able to handle new world things with old school thinking anymore. And this to me is the sole reason behind all of this. We talk about the mission. I don't even know what the hell the mission is at this point. I just know what I need to excuse me. I'm learning to know what I need to take care of inside of me. And I believe that is the crux of mission numeral uno. Because how in the heck am I good to humanity if I'm not good to me? Um, certain little things, my injury, my glasses. Yesterday, at the end of the day, after having a pretty darn good day, that has kind of sent me into a tailspin. Last night, again, the former partner re-entered my brain right before I wanted to fall asleep. And of course, then I woke up, spun up about that. And I'm assuming the, frustration spilled over, this frustration for my injury spilled over into that. And now here we are back to, again, digging back down into more of these root causes for these current emotions that I'm feeling. And so I really think that those are some very drastic differences between the depression and the dark night of the soul. Very relative things to me, could be very surface level. You're feeling down, you're feeling sad. I remember though, when I was depressed, I would still have the urge to really want to go do things, to go out. And granted, back then I was a weekend warrior when it came to drinking, so I was probably numbing the pain of the week on the weekend with drinking and things like that. Where now it's a very clean system. Still at times struggling with weed, but seriously, I think that's like my only vice at this point. Coffee, arguably, I suppose. But as far as everything else, it's no drinking, it's no dating, it's meditating, it's walking in nature, it's getting outside, it's breathing in that air. All things, when I was depressed, I don't know if I would have done those things. I would have probably just leaned on hanging out with friends, and probably numbing the pain from the inside out, and not really, something's there, you just don't know something's there. With the dark night of the soul, I fucking know something is there. All of the time something is there. And it's always there in some capacity. Even when it's faded, I still feel something. Something is there. And then granted, 6 months into this, these things I'm hoping will fade over time. Hoping they will. They are going to. I know how far I've come to this point, but there are still those lingering things that are those constant reminders that more and more work needs to be done. And again, I suppose what another big difference would be is where I am from a knowledgeable perspective on how to handle these things. With depression earlier on in my life, I didn't have any tools at all. I was a young man at the time. Parents had no idea how to deal with anything like that. You really didn't have anybody to talk to except for a therapist who then again, were they really helping? You're there dumping your problems on them. They really don't know anything about you other than the hour you hang out with them a week or bi-weekly. And so I don't know. It to me just, again, seems that more topical type of approach where this is getting after those deep rooted things, demonic entities, whatever they are inside of you, the modern day dysfunction to how we still handle problems. And if there's anything about this dark trip, is it seems like it's much more forced, and not forced by me. It seems like outside factors force me to want to be better, want to change, where before I could just kind of mask it and walk away, and I'd be kind of like, all right, I still feel off, but I can still go do this to help distract me. Where now it's different. It's very different in that area, and I feel pushed. I'm assuming some of it is self-generated, but other times I feel pushed, forced, if you will, to do the work. Because I know if I don't do the work, it's not disappearing. In fact, it's getting worse. So I would say that's a really distinct difference, because depression, it really detached me from me, I will say. Dark Night is uniting me with me. in a different way. I don't know if that makes sense. Depression, it felt like I was being more detached slowly from myself. This feels like I reached a massive point of detachment from myself, and now I'm being reunited. So I would say that that too is another area of interest where I would say that the two are very different. And I'm trying in my mind to kind of rewind time a little bit just to go back and forth. Now with the PTSD, where I said that there was a lot more glaring similarities. Um, I reference veterans, and I'll reference them because my father too was a veteran of the Vietnam War. Saw some shit that no human being should ever have to see. He was in the Navy, but he was on a hospital ship. Um, so helicopters landing, wounded people, dead people. You guys get the drift. Just something eyeballs should not see. The difference I would say between PTSD and depression too is it gives you an event where after that event happens, that world that you used to live in no longer exists. And it's here's a brand new world, walk this path and deal with it. Again, you're naked, different from the dark night of the soul. I think you don't really have a lot of tools. Now, granted, I'm not saying that we're not learning as we're going with this, because I know I certainly am, but I I have some tools in my arsenal just based on my past experiences that maybe some other people don't. So I might be speaking, I don't know, maybe selfishly in that aspect, but I just feel more consciously prepared, I guess, for this journey than I have any other journey in the past, where I'm able to kind of decipher the differences and the subtleties and the nuances with everything. Um, but I will say, just from the consistent hammering of this journey of the dark night, uh, minute by minute, sometimes throughout the day, hour by hour, I think in that aspect it's far more trying than depression and PTSD. With depression and PTSD, there I could still find joy in life. I could detach from it. It's not to say that it wasn't still there, always was there. I could just detach from it more and enjoy things, being present with people. This, I am having the damnedest, hardest time even enjoying going to watch something I love to watch, which is music. I stay about halfway through the show. I struggle with being out in crowds. I took my mom to the football game. We stayed until halftime because the football team sucked. But I just felt this urge to want to leave. So this is so different. It's consistent. The pain is there a lot of the time, if not all the time, as a reminder, especially early on. And it's like there's no escaping it. No matter what I try to go do, no matter where I go, I can go sit in nature and it's cool for a little while, but again, it keeps hitting you. Like there's always these reminders. So I think that too is a big drastic difference for myself. But by all means, please down in the comments section, share your story with this, see what your differences are, similarities, if you've got comparisons with depression and the Dark Knight or PTSD, and just kind of get some dialogue going and see with other people, because I've struggled with this one a little bit back and forth, and I've heard different explanations, and I'm sometimes in tune with what they have to say, and sometimes it's like, I don't know if I agree. So it's just, again, my interpretation and my take on it. And that's what I got today. I hope you're all well. Please like the video if you do, and we'll keep sharing, and hopefully this injury goes away quick. It's not terrible, but it hurts. So there's that. Love you guys.